The tension in the cul-de-sac was so thick it could be cut with a knife. The taller woman, rattled and sweating, took a final step toward my mother, her fist clenched, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. Her partner, the stocky one, flanked her side, bruised pride and desperation clinging to her like the afternoon heat. "You're gonna regret this," the stocky woman snarled again, her voice low, dangerous. "We don't walk away from this kind of disrespect." My mother didn't flinch. She stepped forward once more, her feet steady, her expression unreadable. In that split second, the crowd fell utterly silent. No rustling leaves, no chirping birds. It was the eye of the storm. Her next move would decide everything. "If you step any closer," my mother said calmly, her voice quiet but razor-sharp, "I will take you down, and this time, I won't be so gentle." The stocky woman lunged, swinging a fist wild with rage, her other hand reaching for what looked like pepper spray. But my mother was already moving. With a single pivot, she sidestepped the blow and caught the woman's wrist mid-swing. There was a snap, not bone-breaking, but enough to disarm. The spray clattered to the pavement. Then came the second move, a lightning-fast hook under the woman's arm, spinning her backward with such force she landed flat on her back, when knocked from her lungs. The tall one screamed and charged, but this wasn't her day either. In one fluid motion, my mother twisted, caught the attacker's arm, and slammed her into the side of their SUV with a metallic thud that echoed down the block. Gasps erupted from the growing crowd. One phone dropped in shock. A neighbor shrieked. Another one cheered. My daughter's eyes were wide, but not in fear. She was watching her grandmother with stunned awe. The taller woman groaned, slumped against the SUV door, trying to rise. But she froze when my mother leveled a single finger at her and said, "Don't." The woman sank back down. Then came the sirens, louder now, nearer. Blue and red lights painted the quiet houses like scenes from a war zone. Two cruisers screeched to a halt, doors flying open, officers pouring out. "What the hell happened here?" Officer Harris shouted, one hand on his holster. Neighbors all spoke at once, videos playing, fingers pointing, voices trembling. But the image they all saw was the same. A 65-year-old woman standing tall over two subdued assailants, eyes cool, breathing steady, one hand protectively resting on her granddaughter's shoulder. And in that moment, every soul in that cul-de-sac knew this wasn't just a sweet old lady in a gardening vest. This was justice. Officer Harris stepped forward, his boots crunching against the driveway gravel. His eyes swept the scene, two women bruised and breathless, the battered scooter lying like a casualty of war, my mother standing calm but unyielding, and half the cul-de-sac frozen in collective disbelief. He didn't need long to understand what had just unfolded. "Ma'am," he said, voice steady as he addressed my mother, "are you all right?" "I am," she replied, her tone level. "But my granddaughter's not. Her scooter was destroyed. She was threatened. And these 2-inch," she gestured at the sprawled women, "they're not who they say they are. We're HOA enforcement," the stocky one barked from the ground, still trying to save face. "We have the right to issue citations." "No, you're not," a firm voice interrupted. From behind the second cruiser stepped a woman in a tailored navy blazer and slacks, her badge gleaming on her hip. Her stride was brisk, her presence unmistakable. "Detective Marcia Bellamy, County Special Investigations," she said, flashing her credentials. "We've been chasing reports of HOA impersonators across 3 neighborhoods. Seems we just found our jackpot." She crouched beside the SUV, motioning to the younger officer. "Check the back," she instructed. "Let's see what these fine officials are carrying." The officer popped the trunk. Inside were stacks of fake citations, forged envelopes with fake HOA logos, envelopes stuffed with cash, a clipboard with a list of target homes, including ours, and what looked like a makeshift manual on how to pressure homeowners through intimidation. Bellamy whistled low. "Looks like extortion to me." The stocky woman paled, her bravado evaporating like steam on hot asphalt. "You don't understand," she muttered. We were told we had permission. We're just doing what we were asked." "By who?" Bellamy asked, arms crossed. The woman glanced nervously at her partner, who sat hunched, avoiding eye contact. "Names?" Bellamy pressed. "Right now." But neither of them answered. Detective Bellamy turned to my mother. "Ms. Hart, I'd like to thank you. From what I'm seeing, you may have just brought down a larger fraud ring than we realized." My mother nodded faintly. "I didn't do it for that," she said. "I did it because they threatened my family." Bellamy's eyes softened. "That's exactly why it matters." The arrests were swift. The stocky woman tried one last plea for mercy, but the officers were done listening. As they were placed in cuffs, the tall woman whispered bitterly to my mother, You think you've won? This won't stop us. My mother didn't respond. She didn't have to. The entire street stood behind her. As the cruisers pulled away, the neighborhood slowly began to breathe again. Some clapped. Some hugged. Some just stood silently, processing everything. And Chelsea looked up at her grandmother with wonder etched into her little face. You're like a superhero, she said quietly, reaching for her hand. My mother's lips curled into the gentlest smile. No, sweetheart, she said, brushing back Chelsea's curls. I'm just a grandma who remembers how to fight when it matters. The news vans came that evening. Cameras rolled. Microphones were shoved forward. Everyone wanted to know how a quiet suburban street had become the epicenter of a takedown. But my mother refused all interviews. All that matters, she said to one insistent reporter, is that my granddaughter is safe and my neighbors stood together. That's the story worth telling. And it was. The videos went viral. Social media dubbed her SWAT grandma. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Stand with Eileen lit up local timelines. But at home, away from the noise, my mother returned to her roses. She didn't seek applause. Her satisfaction came from the quiet that no longer felt threatened. The Real HOA board issued a public apology and promised immediate reforms. They reimbursed us for the scooter, revoked shady policies, and removed several members tied to the scam. More victims stepped forward across the county. A full investigation was underway. Detective Bellamy returned a week later, not to question, but to thank. We'll likely be charging those two with fraud, impersonation of officials, conspiracy, assault, and maybe even bribery if we can prove their link to that shady developer, she told us. You didn't just protect your family. You protected dozens more. Chelsea, now proudly riding her brand-new pink scooter gifted by community members, beamed as Bellamy handed her a little junior hero badge. My mother smiled from her porch rocker. Didn't think I'd see the day someone called me that again, she muttered. I sat beside her that night, both of us watching Chelsea carve zigzags into the twilight. I never realized how much you were holding back, I told her softly. She took a long breath. I didn't want my past to define me, she said. I wanted to live in peace. But sometimes peace has to be defended, even if it means showing people who you used to be. And who you still are, I added. She smiled, sipping her tea. Exactly. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood changed. Not in its landscape, but in its people. They were more vigilant, more united, less willing to be pushed around. Committees were formed. Rules were rewritten. People didn't just nod politely anymore. They asked questions. They stood up. Because one grandmother had reminded them that strength didn't come from loud voices or false titles. It came from courage. From choosing to do what was right even when it wasn't easy. From standing on a driveway, between a child and a threat, and saying, not today. And when people asked me what really happened that day, what changed everything, I never said it was the arrests, or the evidence, or even the media storm. I always said it was when a little girl looked at her grandma and realized that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear garden gloves and carry a watering can. But when the moment calls, they stand up, shoulders squared, eyes fierce, and remind the world exactly what justice looks like.